Have you ever been playing Trivial Pursuit, or maybe taking a multiple choice question, or playing along with the TV quiz show? And as soon as you hear the question, an answer comes to mind immediately. You know it. But you think about it, and you talk yourself into a better answer. And we all know how that goes, right? The first answer that came to your mind is almost always right. So how is it that we get so good at talking ourselves out of right answers? Or have you ever had one of those moments where you have this great idea that hits you like a bolt of lightning? You literally gasp. You have a physical, I got it. And you big breath of air, and you get this jolt of energy. Where does that energy come from? And how many times when that's happened to you has the idea you had been exactly what was needed for the situation? Or have you ever been 100% confident of a decision you know the answer in your gut? You know it's the right one. But someone asks you to explain, why is this the right choice for you? And the best you can come up with is, just because. How can we be so sure of something that we can't even explain? To give one possible reason of why all this happens, would you help me with a quick experiment? Just sit comfortably. You can put stuff on the floor, or just get comfortable. Relax your shoulders. Shut your eyes. You can trust your neighbor. Take a deep breath or two. And now, just simply point to yourself. Point to yourself. And now, leaving your finger wherever it is, you can open your eyes and take a look at where everyone's pointing. Without exception, right here. There's one in every crowd, with one exception. It was right here. So except for you, consider where you were pointing. My theory on the connection between happiness and values is that this is where the right the first time answer comes from. Is that this is where that jolt of energy comes from when you have that great idea. That this is why you can trust just because. And that this is the source of a value-driven life. So how does someone live a value-driven life? Well, for me, it basically boils down to this. When making a decision, choose in favor of your values. Martin Luther King, I love this quote by him. I wish I could say it like he does. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. A couple months ago, some collaborators and I launched the Global Values Project. We believe each of us is born with a natural guidance system. And the approach we take to connecting with and understanding that system is our values. The theme of the summit is on setting a life course. And I hope to give you just a glimpse of how a value-driven approach to setting a life course can lead to a life of meaning and happiness. We'll start with meaning. Many studies and even presentations earlier in this segment have talked about how stress can have negative impacts on our physical being. We know it's a leading cause of inflammation, leading to increased susceptibility from colds and viruses, to cardiac disease, cancer. But there was a study that took an almost opposite approach. They took two groups of people who both considered themselves to be very happy, and they wanted to understand how happiness was affecting their bodies at the physical level. Here's what they found. One group of people had what they called hedonic happiness, or hedonism is the word in there, right? This is the happiness that comes from living the good life. So wearing all the nice clothes, eating at the nice restaurants, having a great house in the nice part of town. Even though they thought they were very happy, this group still had really, really high levels of inflammation in their bodies. The second group had eudaimonic happiness, like euphoria. These people were happy because they were living a life of meaning and purpose. And the inflammation levels in their bodies was extremely, extremely low. So in the context of setting our life course, what can we take from these two groups? Well, for me, I think it's this, that our heads may be able to trick us into thinking that we're happy, but our bodies know what real happiness is. In fact, our bodies know a lot. There is a vagus nerve system, sounds like Las Vegas, V-A-G-U-S, the vagus nerve system, that connects all the major organs in our body directly to our brain. And when you think about all the information that's being exchanged there, with every cell being in constant communication with every other cell about what's going on, that is a ton of information. In fact, 80 to 90% of the information traveling the vagus nerve is going from our organs to our brains. The heart is, of course, part of the vagus nerve system, and maybe one reason why almost everybody pointed right here when you asked to point to yourselves is the energy wave, the amplitude of the energy wave of the heart is actually 60 times greater than that of the brain. The electromagnetic field of the heart is 5,000 times that of the brain. The folks at the Heart Math Institute actually created an image of the electromagnetic field of the heart and discovered that it extends many feet beyond our physical bodies. I think this proves that what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas. It is actually being put out there for anybody who's around us and is tuned in to pick up on. So you especially be careful. So I'd like to use this artist's representation of the functions of the left and right hemispheres of the brain to illustrate what might be going on with our two study groups. The left side of our brain handles logic and reason, and the right side is in charge of passion and creativity. The left side defines the words that make up our language, but it's the right side that gives those words their meaning. The left side is always breaking information down into smaller pieces and filing it away in just the right place and category, while the right side is always seeking to make new connections. And the left side focuses on the situation at hand with laser-sharp focus, while the right side is always seeking to understand the bigger picture. So it seems, just as we can talk ourselves out of those "I was right the first time" answers, we can convince ourselves we're happy when deep down we're not. We know the hedonic or the good life happiness is temporary and superficial. It's still real. It's validated by the left hemisphere of the brain because it meets all the externally driven requirements for happiness from our culture, our social norms, our peer groups, and as you presented yesterday, even our geographic communities. But eudaimonic happiness, because it allows the right hemisphere of the brain to have its say, is deep and it's lasting, even embedded in our very genes. Albert Einstein, many years ago, summed this up quite well. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Do not settle for superficial happiness, because it only comes with that side order of inflammation. It's never going to go away. Let your values guide your life course, and they will always lead you to a life that has the most meaning for you. So happiness. In just a few minutes, you'll be the first to see the preliminary results from the Global Values Project on whether there is a connection between values and happiness or not. And just to set that up, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on how we collected that data. Just a couple months ago, we launched our values assessment tool. This is an online free tool that guides a person in assessing how happy they are in different aspects of their life, walking them through the process of identifying and connecting with their top 5 core values, and then doing some work around how present is each of those values in each aspect of their life. And the design of the tool is actually based on some of the neuroscience principles that we've been talking about here, helping the user achieve left brain, right brain integration, because we know that is where we make our best decisions and we're most in touch with ourselves. So here's a quick rundown of how the tool works. First, we ask folks just to simply rate how happy they are in different aspects of life on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 is could not be any worse, 10 is could not get any better. And then we put all of those together in this pie chart and ask them to do a bit of compare-contrast. Okay, for example, we've got 3 different life aspects here with the same rating. Do they really feel the same? And kind of go back and forth between this left brain number that you assign to quantify it with the right brain emotion and intensity of the feeling. And so users might iterate through this until, relative to one another, they feel all the life aspects have been scored properly. We then move into naming the values. And our starting point for this is actually triggers. A trigger is an event that has a strong negative emotional response. It just brings something up in you. For me, one of my triggers used to be being cut off in traffic. It could be the neighbor playing, okay, we've got another one of those over here. It could be the neighbor at 3 a.m. playing loud music on a weeknight. Right? We've all got triggers, which is one of the reasons we use those as a starting point. We all have them, and they're easy for us to identify. So think about one of your own triggers. What happens in your body as you remember that or you think about that situation? Maybe your stomach turns, maybe your jaw clenches, your breath quickens, right? Remember the vagus nerve? You have this physical response to your trigger because whatever is happening in that situation is stepping on one of your values. And it's this energetic conflict that creates this response. So once we have some triggers, we then very quickly move on to something more positive. Positive counters is what we call them. And this is anything that has the energetically opposite feeling of the trigger. So here we have action and results as positive counters for the trigger of laziness. Think about that, right? I felt this when I finished my PowerPoint slides last night. Yes, I'm done. Or you've mowed the lawn and it looks great and it smells good and you have that sense of accomplishment that comes from being in an action and having accomplished something. And it's really key here to be as creative and broad as you can be. Like Van Gogh is on the list. This guy never sold a painting in his life, but he kept painting and painting and painting because he loved it and never gave up. So use names of famous people and songs and quotes and celebrities, metaphors, whatever it is. The richer the context you can come up with here, the better, because it's this context that we'll then ask you to use to name the value. Here I use proof, like, show me the money. That may or may not mean anything to you, and that's okay. Values are really personal, and all that really matters is you give it a name that means something to you. Because think about this, let's actually look at this backward about what you're giving yourself, even just in this part of the assessment. You would be able to refer to the name of the single word, proof, and be able to step into and connect with, energetically, what it would feel like, what it would mean to have this in your life. When you have this in your life, you'll know. It'll show up. That is what the value-driven life approach is really all about. So once you've got your top 5 values, we then just walk through the process of, okay, how present is each value in each of those different life aspects? And there's a bit of what that would look like as well. So it's those 3 main activities that make up the values assessment tool. So a bit of context on where we are with the tool. We've had over 150 people from over 20 different countries register and start their assessment process in the last couple of months, which is great. We pulled our data 2 weeks ago, and at that point we'd had 33 people who have completed their assessments. So what we're about to show you is based on those 33 folks. This is one view. This is one individual user's results who agreed to let us use these results. This is one view that you get. It's a summary. If you look at it, we've got the happiness. This is work and career right here. We pull in the happiness rating in blue. We pull in how present did they assess all their values in gray, and we put them side by side like that for each life aspect. Let's get rid of the little hints there. Here's the same data. What do you see? Yeah, definite correlation, right? For this particular person, I think it's 3 life aspects have the exact same rating. A couple others are really close. A couple others aren't as close, but are still directionally in line. And when we roll that data up and we look at the results for all 33 folks, I am thrilled that it looks like our theory that there is a direct correlation between how present our values are in our life and how happy we are is real, and it's got some real teeth to it. And we're looking forward to presenting more formal results as well, and much more varied with the data that we're collecting. Okay, I know there are a lot of folks here from different community-based health organizations and services, and I want to talk a little bit about how the values assessment tool is being used in Vancouver Coastal Health. I'm the supervisor for the Peer Strategic Advisor program that runs there, and thank you, Rob, which is a group of peer advisors. We get our guys teamed up with clients who come in. They bring a topic of their choice, and our guys are trained with motivational interviewing, how to facilitate good discussions with them, and trained in tools like setting SMART objectives and putting together plans for helping them make their personal change. So we've implemented values in the PSA program like this so far. Each of our PSAs has completed the values assessment tool. So they know what it is, how to use it. They know what type of results people will bring in and how to use those to facilitate good discussions. We developed and conducted training on values, morals, and ethics, which was really key in helping our PSAs be able to help see in our clients, when is it that it's an internal value that's being at play versus when is it some of that external noise that we talked about, and being able to help them get that understanding as well. And opportunistically, we'll have the clients complete this, and we use it to really help clarify and deepen their topic. We find the topic that comes in the door with our clients is often not what they really want to talk about. And values, because it comes from that inside place where we were all pointing, is a really great way to have a deeper discussion. Really helps focus on an area for change. And huge when making personal change efforts is finding what's the deeper motivation, not only to move into action, but to stick with it and see it through. And again, because values are so deep in ourselves, it's been a real great tool there. In closing, so first, I'm going to challenge you because I'm a little biased. It's my tool, but I still challenge you to complete the values assessment tool and try living a value-driven life and see what happens. The good news is if you said yes to any of those questions at the beginning, or you pointed here, or when I mentioned triggers, you immediately had a top 10 list starting in your head, then you've already got everything you need to have a really good, insightful experience with the tool. And then finally, I invite you to be part of the Global Values Project and what we're doing, which is to create a world full of people living value-driven lives. Thank you, and choose one.